My name is Al Yagavane. I'm 25 Elaine Drive, Seymour, Connecticut. I'm here in reference to information that I just acquired in reference to the Broad Street Park, Friends of the Broad Street Park, and the Parks Committee of the town of Seymour. I have, for the past 30 years, worked on the park, and some problems for which are arising and creating great concern to me. One of which is my integrity. I was told that I signed a man's signature on a request form for which a tree and some brick were ordered. I did not sign. I wrote his name. I did not write his signature or intend to write his signature. On the form that I was told I had to use, it says, ordered by. This gentleman and I were authorized to go up and pick out a tree for the Broad Street Park. And he himself, this gentleman, picked out the tree himself. And they tagged it to be earmarked for Seymour. Because of our procedure, I did not have a check or a purchase order number to approve picking up the tree. We had to get it approved after they picked up the tree. I had to fill out this form, for which I've been filling out since day one when they started this new procedure. It says ordered by, not signature. And I'll let the law or the lawyer look at the form, and he can tell us whether I did wrong or not. I could have put all 5 names on the board that were there that approved the purchase. Then we take this form and submit it to the Parks. Now, on the Parks Committee, when they had their meeting, this is what they wrote. The same gentleman showed up at the Parks Committee without our knowledge that he was going to do so. It says, this gentleman had concerns about the Broad Street Park Committee. 2 recent purchases requisitions were questioned. The list of volunteers. The list of the volunteers for the plaque at the park had been done and redone many times as there were mistakes and corrections. Another issue was the need to repaint the gazebo in an attempt to get a grant to cover the cost. A motion was made by Bill Selectmen to deny any purchase requisition with the committee chairman's Al Yagavane's name on them, seconded by Gary. All in favor? Motion to recommend that Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee be disbanded. Again, seconded by Gary. All in favor? A letter will be sent to the first selectman making that recommendation. This particular individual did help me 30 years ago when I needed to found out that I had to submit an actual drawing to the town, which I had no problem doing. I asked him to give me a price or whatever it cost. He said he would do it at no charge. That was greatly appreciated. Over the years, progressively, he and I have had confrontation, especially at our meetings. And to further point, over the 30 years, I had most of the sidewalk in at one point, and then when I came home from the golf, I had to redo it. A good friend of mine, Mr. Carl Miller of Miller Ward Funeral Home, over the years has been a big supporter. Right? A question was raised just the other night at our meeting about $850. Now, I looked at what bricks were bought and the money that Mr. Miller has donated, along with a lady by the name of Beverly Kennedy and myself. Every time we ran the candlelight service in the town of Seymour, I had refreshments of hot coffee, hot chocolate, cakes, pizzas, you name it. That cost of those items was picked up by Mr. Carl Miller and myself and Beverly Kennedy. Right? That money did not get put into, we call the special fund at Town of Seymour. And when someone questions my integrity, like this was done, and then to be told that they will not accept any paperwork for which has my name on it. And then they want to disband the committee. This particular gentleman did one thing. He made the drawing, and once a year he sprays a chemical on the weeds, supposedly. The rest of the committee, we've laid mulch every year, 65 bags just about a month and a half ago, by one woman and one man. And to disband a committee that built one of the best looking parks, if not the best looking park, in the valley, it's very disheartening, okay? And to say, or to question my integrity about signing his name, nowhere on this form does it say signature. It says ordered by. So I wrote his name and my name, because he went up and ordered, after the approval of our committee, we went up and he picked out the tree. I did not. We tagged, they tagged the tree, and they're still holding it as far as I know. Now, with that, this form was submitted to the forest. To put in here that it was denied, and with anything with my name on it, that's, to me, is a low blow. Now, with that being said, I understand that you people might be getting a letter from this Parks Department saying to disband this committee. Okay? That would be a travesty. It would be a shame. Right? These people put in a lot of hours. Okay? And we don't do it for our own gratification. We do it to honor the dead. We brought Christmas trees. Matter of fact, Mr. Miller, a good, very good friend of mine, one year I was short and I didn't have enough money for the light. He said, go pick it up. I went up to this one job light, not job light, Richland. We're still here. All right? He picked up the tab. He wrote out a check to me and said, go pick them up. Now, with that being said, when someone says something like this at a public meeting for which we didn't even know he was going to. He was not authorized. He wasn't appointed to go represent our committee. And then to want to sell us down the tube and say they're going to recommend that we disband. We've done all the work. We've done the work. Okay? We pull the weeds, we plant the flowers. Yes, I'm not down there anymore like I used to be 7 days a week. I go there once a week. I look at, see if the garbage is being picked up, and et cetera. We've had other issues with other committees down there, but I don't want to bring all that up. I'm just saying that if you're going to consider listening to a bunch of bull, then maybe I don't want to be a part of this town. All right? And I would hate to say that, because I believe there are very good people in this town, people who would gladly help anybody out. We've had job fairs, we've gotten people jobs. I didn't do it for Al Yagigan. I did it because there was a lot of people out of work. We spent a lot of time in this community. And then for this to be said at a meeting for which I wasn't even being invited, that I was going to be discussed. I submit this to your lawyer. Here's the form. I wrote my name and his name there as ordered by. Not a signature. Not a signature. I could have wrote the 5 names that are on the board that were there that approved it. But I didn't do that. I didn't think I had to. Needless to say, I'm really hurt. Because so many people, like the Millers, the Kennedys, and the Aguilers, and the Casses, and I can go on. to say that this really hurt. And that's all I have to say. You're gonna consider keeping us on. I don't know what you got in there or from the, anything else. If you got any questions, I was elected the chairman. I offered the chairmanship to this guy. I said, you want to be the chairman? Go ahead. He refused it. Because why? There's a lot of planning that goes into getting one thing done. When you've got two other boards that you gotta go through. And you all know. Right? No, I'm not telling you nothing. But this is the last straw. This really broke the camel's back. Very upset with it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Ask one last time. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to item number 4. Excuse me, approved minutes from the July 19, 2016 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
A motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Item number 5, First Selectmen's Report. There's no First Selectmen's Report tonight. All my comments will be made during item number 10. At this point, I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda to set a special town meeting for Tuesday, August 16 at 6:45 p.m. in the Norma Drummer Room to discuss the purchase of a new truck for Public Works.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, to set the special town meeting for Tuesday, August 16th, 2016, at 6:45 p.m. in the Norma Drummer Room to discuss the purchase of a new truck for the Department of Public Works. Have a motion to do so.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Just under discussion, this is the town budget's $90,000 a year for a new 550 each year. So this special meeting will deal with the purchasing of that vehicle. Any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Item number 6, discussion with NBCOG regarding plan of conservation and development. So Joanna, if you want to step up to the mic, introduce yourself, and we'll kind of take it from there. Is it on? No?
So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Joanna Rogalski, I'm with the planning, and I'm also from council governance. Myself and some of our planning staff. Myself and some of our planning staff helped with the writing of the Plan of Conservation Development for Seymour, the update for 2016. We submitted a copy to the Board of Selectmen on June 21st, and that kicked off the formal 65-day review process for formally adopting, in the eyes of the state, the Plan of Conservation and Development. So, yeah, I just wanted to make some points about the particular plan. When we wrote it, we wrote it in mind of the engaged citizen. And we wanted to have enough detail for the state mandates, but also to have some guidance for developers and for the plans of for the planning and zoning commissions. We designed the actual plan with some project signals to make it a living document, and that's what hopefully the state is intending for this to be, a living document that's updated regularly. For them, regularly is every 10 years. We recommend it being a little bit more often than that. The POCD is just an advisory document, and it points to a lot of the other more detailed documents that your town already has going on for you. The 10-year strategic plan, you've got a downtown plan, there was an economic plan for Seymour parcels that was just done by Fred Massour. I can't remember the consultant's name, but...
Usurk. Yep.
Yep. So what it does is kind of makes a summary of all of these and says, hey, this is what our town wants to look like in 2025. This is just a guidance document. Look to these other documents for specifics on what we really want done. The Naugatuck Valley Regional Plan of Conservation Development is going to be written in the next 2 years. The regional POCD is based on all of the 19 towns' individual POCDs. So, you know, whatever we do is based on what you guys have done. But when we do have it published, we would ask that you just take a look to see if your towns still match with what the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments has written as well. With that, I'll just pause for a moment. Do you have any questions based on what you have written or used so far?
Again, if it recalls, that's it's roughly 113, 114-page document that we emailed to you back in June for everyone to review. It was too big to obviously print out. So everybody got an electronic copy of it. So that's what Joanna is referring to. So does anyone have any specific questions or comments?
Yeah, just with regard to it, you know, I kind of get the gist of it, or the way I'm understanding is the point of the document is to, I would assume, find commonalities between the towns and what they're trying to do to maybe sync up their activities and make it a little more economical, a little more efficient. Is the valley, the Naugatuck Valley COG, are you taking the lead with regard to spearheading some of those efforts to try to, I'm trying to think off the top of my head of an example that might be pertinent, but the only thing that comes to mind is the sewage treatment plants and the attempt to regionalize some of that. I mean, does this come into play with that sort of an effort, or is this something entirely different?
Well, what it does is it leads to those types of measures, saying that, yeah, this is something we prioritize. Whether you actually go forward with that depends on your own funding,
Mhm.
depends on your own political will within the town. But this document is meant to, first of all, incorporate the voices of your residents. And that's why we did an online survey. We had held one public hearing, and I actually attended a whole bunch of commission meetings as well. Regionalization, regional services is definitely part of the NDR mission. So, and that's increasingly so based on the state and their guidelines. Policy. So, yes, we would like to address those of you that, and that's when it comes time for the regional POCD, we would hope that we come back to CMAR, come back and we look at all these different, I know that there's now a community animal shelter. Your particular animal shelter disclosure is going into the hands of the private.
We regionalize with Woodbridge and Bethany.
Right, yeah, so those kinds of things, yes, we would like to, it makes sense to save money and maybe have better service. So that's the long answer. The short answer is yes, we hope that that would address.
So,
Your particular municipal city says, yeah, we'd like it to go in this direction.
so this is kind of like a passive guidance document for us to kind of look at and say, okay, all these other towns are doing this. And so rather than Naugatuck Valley COG taking the lead, once those efforts are identified, it would continue to be the towns that would do that.
Actually, your document is more about your town.
Right.
Not so much about what's going on in the other towns. Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, we're looking at what's going on with the other towns. And we're saying, hey, this makes sense, this town is a subpar, sewer,
Mhm.
this one doesn't. Maybe we could transfer things over, combine services or something. Your POCD is guiding your town.
I'm clear on that. I think I must be misunderstanding, I guess, what the document actually is. The document you're referring to, I was under the impression it was a regional document as opposed to just Seymour's in particular.
It's just CEA.
Okay, I apologize. That was my own.
What I was alluding to is that in a couple of years' time, Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments will be writing its own
Right.
uniform.
Okay, so there will be one.
There
Yep.
will be one, yes.
But the COG does have a shared services, I guess, department, for lack of a better term.
Yep, we have a coordinator.
Yep.
Thank you for your question.
What other questions or comments for Joanna? Anything?
Bless you. Bless you.
Do we have, oh, no, you're not P and Z anymore, so. Anything else you'd like to add, or anything else that the selectmen need to do, maybe next steps if you want to?
I just wanted to let you know that I did speak with Bob Booker, the Municipal about that much. And I went over with him again, tell me, what do you concur with, what don't you agree with? He was okay with everything that was written in here.
Mhm.
I made some corrections based on our conversation, but he was pretty much okay with
the next big milestones for the town of Seymour, there should be, with the 65-day review period, at the end of that 65-day review period, you can have a public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission should have a public hearing on the document, plan of conservation development. And the 65-day period will be landing that public hearing on August 25th. That's a Thursday. So I can coordinate with the Planning and Zoning Commission or
You can work with Rory to get that set up.
I can do that. The other, and again, I'll work with Rory on this one, for that particular public hearing, there has to be a notice made 15 days prior to that public hearing date, that would be August 10th, and also 2 days prior to the public hearing, that would be August 20th. So it has to be public notice of that particular meeting. Along the way, if there are any other comments that I can include through the website or through your office, some of the students' comments, we can take a look at it, come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and say, we've gotten these comments, would you like to incorporate them and find it, based on also our technical help with you guys, that this makes sense to incorporate now, or is this something that the town is really not ready for? So, yeah, those are the next milestones. So hopefully by the 25th we'll have a public hearing, and we can also have the hearing for the actual vote on adoption. And the zoning commission can vote on adoption. That's the night if they wish. They don't have to, but if they wish.
So for this board, it's more on just for informational purposes. It's planning and zoning that truly controls
They leave
the
that
process. Yep.
But what is important is that this board, like the planning and zoning commission and the whole town,
Mhm.
do you agree with what's in this POCD or you don't agree? Whether you do or don't doesn't have an effect on what the planning and zoning commission will vote. It doesn't affect whether it will be adopted or not, unless of course there's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of cooperation that you guys have. Yeah, really, really not sure, maybe planning and zoning commission, like, okay, we can change this, we can't change that, or whatever. But it's pretty much planning and zoning commission, one of the.
Any other questions for Joanna? No? Thank you for the hard work and effort you put on this. I know it's been well over a year you've been battling away on this,
You
so
guys have been waiting a lot more.
we appreciate we appreciate all the help.
Yeah.
So, excellent. Thank you, Joanna. Okay. All right, item number 7, update on LED streetlight conversion process. Rory.
Good evening. In your packets, you should have a little spreadsheet that I put together about this. The last time that I spoke to you, we were going off bid, that you guys reviewed. We put it out to 4 companies, 3 of which were pre-approved by CCS. Just one page, landscape.
Yeah.
So of the 4 companies that we sent it to, 2 submitted RFPs, or proposals, rather. They were a little difficult to read. Tony and myself spent a very long time going through them. Some of the issues that we were having just related to the fact that this is kind of a complicated process. There's a variety of fixtures that are available. Each fixture costs different, and when you multiply that by the 1,100 fixtures that we have in town, the difference is pretty large. There also seems to be different kinds of accounting for energy savings within the same proposal. And so we spent a long time trying to rectify these numbers within the 2 proposals. And so this spreadsheet, I'll go through it real quick. We asked for cost per fixture and total cost. And you'll see the per fixture for Tenco is pretty close. And for Wheel Term is There's a pretty good gap there, over $100 per fixture. And so if you go to real term, the first question that we have for them is what accounts for that disparity. They only provided specs on two different fixtures, two brands, Acuity and GE. Acuity is over $100 cheaper, and we want to know why. Is it a quality issue? Do they have some sort of connection to this company? We just don't know what it is. It wasn't indicated. Total cost in thousands. You'll see the upper end of the scale is pretty similar. The lower end, again, when you look account for the Acuity brands, that's what it is. But the asterisk, if you look at the bottom, Tanco included the cost of fixture acquisition from Eversource. Remember, we have to purchase the streetlights from Eversource before we move forward. Realterm did not. And that is it's a fixed price provided to us by Eversource, which was about $144,000. When you add that to the low end of Realterm, it's still within the range of Tanco, but when you look at the GE product, which both of them provided quotes for, and they just happen to be a high end for both of them, if you add another $142,000 to the high end for Realterm, so that's a pretty substantial difference. So we asked them, obviously they can't speculate as to how Tanco arrived at their numbers, but why is that so just fairly? How can Tanco do the same thing for $100,000 or more cheaper? The net costs, that includes all the rebates that they thought that they could get, which again, you'll see those are pretty similar. The total energy savings, again, pretty similar between the two. Maintenance, that's an annual figure. $5,000 difference is not a huge number. The audit, that's a one-time thing. Tanco, if you recall, had said that they would offer that to us for free potentially if we chose to go with that for the construction phase. So that could potentially be a zero. And Tanco provided a figure for payback term. Realterm did not, but that's based on a particular type of financing option. Right now, we haven't decided what we'd like to do with that. We may do what they're suggesting, we may go with another option. So that number's just there because it is in the proposal. But also, the other question, if you recall, we had asked about getting adapters. Well, let me also say, I sent the questions that are listed here to the two companies.
Okay.
We asked for responses by August 8th. Tanco actually submitted theirs this afternoon, and I gave it looking through, so some of what we asked had a reasonable explanation. What we'd like to do now is we'll give ourselves about a week to review the answers as they come in, and then Tony, Kurt, and I will sit down with the two companies that are going to send representatives before your meeting on the 16th. We can come to hopefully a recommendation that night for action the following meeting, so you guys have some time to think it over. But back to the adapters, one of the companies had mentioned, putting things like Wi-Fi in the streetlights, that we could have free public Wi-Fi downtown. Tanco, in their response, had said basically that they didn't know that that technology existed. They don't believe it does. So that's something that we're going to have to follow up with them on, as well as the other company. Otherwise, one of the other big things was this, the total energy savings. If you recall, once we purchase the streetlights, we basically pay a monthly fee to Eversource currently, which is, covers using their poles because they own most of the poles, and it also covers the maintenance because when they currently own the lights. Once we purchase them, they no longer maintain the lights, and when this whole idea of municipalities purchasing streetlights is looked out through PURA, they reached a low fee of 50 cents per fixture versus the $8 we pay while Eversource maintains them. So what's unclear is whether the total savings takes into account that savings going from $8 a month per fixture to 50 cents per fixture, just for having the lights on the poles and having them maintained, or whether that is pure energy savings. I would think it takes into account both.
Excuse me.
But, I mean, that's pretty much it. Basically, we would look to probably get this going next spring, if we could. It would give them a chance to do the audit, over the winter. Also, if you recall, Eversource, the price they gave us for acquisition had an expiration date, which is, it's almost here. So we're gonna have to get another, quote from Eversource. The first one took about 6 months. But we should be good to go for the spring.
Any questions? Good.
Do we have the employees that can do the maintenance on these lights?
No. The column for maintenance built into this is the assumption, well, that is to say we could, if we wanted public works to be,
That's my question.
yeah, I think, in discussions, Tony or I have all discussed not doing that. And, they all offer maintenance packages, and, Tanco's I know works out to about $1 per fixture per year as a sort of base rate, and then on top of that, any, replacement parts and labor would be in addition. But if you look at just the savings from going from $8 fixture per month to 50 cents, I mean, that covers at least the base rate. And then the energy savings, we discussed that, some kind of sinking fund to get those money available for maintenance going forward. But we wouldn't do it, it would be one of the contractors.
Yeah.
And there would be a website and phone number that residents could call, or they could call us, and we could put it in the system.
What other questions?
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm trying to read through this, and it says, you have total energy savings broken out, and then total rebates. Does the total energy savings include the total rebates? Is that part of the savings?
I don't believe so. That was one of the other things that was sort of unclear.
So this is the chart they gave us.
No, they gave us a series of charts.
This chart we made.
So if you look at the total cost in thousands column,
Mhm.
and then the net cost, the difference is the rebates.
So
Okay.
what do the rebates entail? I mean, what are these rebates?
We included in the RFP that that would be their problem in terms of these fixtures are all eligible for rebates. It varies how much, which is why there's a range in the total rebates available, but we require that they fill out and submit all the paperwork.
Is this from the energy efficiency tariffs and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And the maintenance cost, I'm assuming that's an annual estimate?
Yeah,
Mhm.
for Tanko, it seems to be a flat number. And it would be, we look at a 10-year time period. And real quick, more than half of these proposals were technical specifications for fixtures, which, quite frankly, we're not equipped to look at. We don't have the knowledge. But built into the RFP were specifications that CCM recommended. There's a lighting design consortium that we required all the fixtures to be approved by, so that we know we're getting a quality product. And also, we require that all of the fixtures that they offer have a 10-year warranty.
Mhm.
So that first 10-year period, we would expect very little in the way of repairs, because it's all through warranty. But if somebody hits a pole and it goes down, like I said, then they be required to,
What's the lifespan? Give or take?
LEDs aren't like incandescent bulbs or fluorescent bulbs, they don't go out,
Mhm.
they dim. So they recommend when they're at about 70% capacity, you replace them. They don't know.
Which
Because
is,
it's
oh,
such
they
a
don't,
new
they don't know.
technology, they really haven't reached that. They're rated for hours, and
If it's under the 10-year warranty, do they come out and replace it if it dims beyond the 70% or whatever the recommendation is?
Yeah, they gave figures for how many fixtures are in the addition, less than 1%. So less than 10 fixtures over the course of 10 years is what we should expect.
Any-
Make sure I'm clear on Len's question, is will they cover that, those defective,
As
Lights
long,
and-
as long as it is the fixture itself.
yeah, and not the,
Yeah, so they, both of them offer 1-year comprehensive labor warranties, which is the contractor messes up the wiring, then it's covered. After that, because the warranty is on the fixture itself. So they have to do some sort of a physical manufacturer's defect.
Just a follow-up question with regard to the total rebates. If it is what I think it is, what sort of recourse do they have built in, if any, to the RFP if those rebates go away? If ISO New England changes their tariff rates, or some of the states decide to do away with energy efficiency rates, do we still have those savings built in, or do we lose them?
That's something that we have now. I mean, I will say, if you look at the total annual savings and the total rebates, I mean, it's a great question, we would definitely find out, but.
The energy savings are it looks like that in and of itself, if it is what I think it is, then it's a slam dunk. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was
if it's built in together, it becomes less of a slam dunk if those rebates suddenly disappeared.
Absolutely.
It's just something to consider.
Yeah, when we follow up with them. yeah.
Mhm. What other questions, thoughts? Again, we'll get the questions submitted. We got Tankos today, as Rory said. We're waiting for real terms answers. Then we're going to bring them in and ask them specific questions, so do a little interview process. Then we need to decide how we're going to purchase these. That's going to be the big consideration at this point. So we really want to narrow down what the total net cost is to determine if it's something that we can pay for in cash and start to realize the energy savings right away. As you can see, they're in the neighborhood of $130,000 a year. Or do we want to use those savings to pay for the project in itself over a 3 or 4 year period? So those are going to be some of the questions. But they weren't overly clear in their bid specs as to how that would work. So those are going to be some of the questions. As Ray had mentioned, our hope is that either at our next meeting on August 16th or the first meeting in September, that we'll have a letter of recommendation for the board to accept and award the bid. So there's still plenty of time. If any of you have any specific questions, if any of you want to actually sit down and read the bid specs, you're certainly more than welcome to. But as Rory said, the vast majority is specs.
We have electronic copies, so I
Yeah.
can email it out.
Is there an executive summary?
Yeah.
It's quite mind-numbing. Yeah, and that's why I asked Rory to do this, because, he would come in, Tony would come in, and they would explain different pieces. It was very hard to kind of keep track who was doing what, who was offering what, so I asked them to put this together to make it a little bit easy for us to understand, so kind of an executive summary for that, and then specific questions. So, again, any specific questions that you have, Len, you seem to have the most. If you want to get those over to Rory, we can certainly ask those specifically when they come in, and make sure, I mean, not in a good way, Len. We can specifically ask those questions. I took the note too, what happens if the rebate goes away? And is there a difference if we pay this outright in cash versus financing and things like that, so. Questions, comments, thoughts? No? Excellent. Thank you, Rory.
Thank you, Rory.
Nice job. All right, item number 8, I'm gonna ask that we table again because I'm still doing some research with Rich and Brian, and we don't have all the full details yet. So I'll ask for a motion to table item number 8.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstains, chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, discussion, take possible action regarding special joint meeting with the Board of Finance. We had discussed with regards to the process of putting the bond issue for roads and for buildings, on the November ballots. And then going back and forth with bond counsel, we thought that we might have to have a joint meeting of the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. I had mentioned that to you at our last meeting. But looking at the timeline that they have projected, the Board of Selectmen needs to recommend the appropriations and the borrowing authorizations either at their August 2nd or August 16th meeting, but not later than September 8th. So we're currently having those, the borrowing authorization and the resolutions put together, which we'll have on the 16th for this board to take action. The Board of Finance will also need to approve the same authorizations and the same resolutions. They will do so at their August 23rd meeting. So there'll be no need for any special meetings to be had, which is certainly nice. Once we do that, Planning and Zoning is going to have to do an 824, which essentially says that the work that we're doing complies with the town's plan of conservation and development. That's a good thing. Their meeting is August 11th, I do believe. So we'll have that done. The next thing that we will need to do is we will need to hold a special town meeting not earlier than Tuesday, October 25th, and not later than Tuesday, November 1st. And that meeting is held to introduce and discuss the bond resolution and adjourn to referendum, or in this case, which will be the actual election in November on November 8th. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So we'll have more information for this board to actually take action on at our meeting on the 16th. A lot of that's going to be driven by the discussion that we have tonight with regards to the roads. So they can't fully put the resolutions and things together until they know exactly the course of action that we're going to take. So that's a little bit of the update as to how that's going. Does anybody have any questions on that? No? I'm sure the Board of Finance members here are happy to hear they don't have to come to an extra meeting, so. Okay. Okay, item number 10, discussion regarding roads. All right. We had the report from Brian at our last meeting. Everyone got their little mini packets, had the opportunity to review. Now, before we get into that, I've been spending some time over the last 2 weeks or so running the numbers and working with our financial advisors as to how best to break this up. Now, as you know, when we built our debt models, we had anticipated the ability for bonding issues twice in the next 4 years, both at about $5 million. So that's what we based this initial amount on, $3.5 million for roads and $1.5 million for buildings, and you guys saw everything with regards to the building. So what I asked the financial advisors to do is to rebuild the models again, adding specifics in, but giving us different options. One of the things I asked, based on Brian's report and how woefully behind we are as a community on roads, because they've basically been ignored for about 20 years, I asked him what it would cost or what the difference would be if we increased the amount we borrowed at being $6 million as opposed to $5 million, and how that would fit in our debt service models. What it works out to be is about a $35,000 a year difference in the at least initial costs. The debt service itself at $5 million will essentially decrease the first year, as we had anticipated. It will stay level for 3 years, and then we'll start to see steady drops after that. If we went for $6 million, we would again see decreases in the next 2 years. It would be level for 2 years. There would then be an increase of about $61,000, and then we would see those drops. With the the mill rate stabilization fund, we can easily cover that $61,000 without any problem. So we're keeping our debt service basically level, slightly decreasing. It would go in the next 10 years. We currently pay $4,498,000. It would drop down to $2.7 million. But that $2.7 million, keep in mind, takes into account all the investments that we've made in our infrastructure over the last 2 years. So essentially, if we went with the $6 million, that $11 million is built into those numbers. So while our debt service is not going to drop as quickly as we had initially talked about, we're changing that to allow us to make these investments in infrastructure. The key thing that we need to keep in mind is the debt service that we're going to pay will either stay level, or continue to drop every year for the next 10 years, and that's the important thing. So I bring that up because we're going to have, I'm sure, a quite lively discussion as to how we're going to break these roads up over the next couple of years. If the board is comfortable, and it would certainly be my recommendation to this board, I would like to increase the number from $3.5 million on roads to $4.5 million. So that will give us some extra wiggle room, some extra discussion on some different things. If you want to see the specific numbers, we can certainly do that. Now, the other good news, I got, myself, Doug, and Tony had a meeting with the financial advisors last night. They have 4 additional issues that they're going to recommend next spring for refunding, which in turn will give us even more flexibility in our debt service plan. Just as we did the refunding this year, it gave us flexibility. We had these 4 issues that were right on the cusp of being able to be refunded. It wasn't at this point considered efficient. They're projecting that next year, based on interest rate projections and things, that those will become efficient. So that will change this model even more. I asked them today to put a model together, but again, it's going to be speculative at this point, but at least it would give everybody an idea as to what we might be looking at. So I know that's a lot of information to drop on you guys at one time, and we can certainly go into that in more detail, but I just wanted to have give you that background before we started these discussions. So any questions on any of that?
Yeah, just for the, just kind of get my head around the speculation that was put forth yesterday. Maybe you don't want to comment on it at this point, but what did they speculate the material impact would be, approximately?
Material impact for?
We refunded the issue, what you just.
They didn't say that.
They
No.
refused to.
What they do is they have a computer program that looks at your current, each issuance, and then it looks at projections going forward, and the computer essentially spits out an efficiency score, and if the efficiency score is 60 or higher, then it's something that you should look at refunding. If it's below 60, it's something that you shouldn't touch. So these 4 issues were in the high 40s, low 50s last spring. They're now projecting that those will be in the 60s and 70s next spring. But they won't, they couldn't, at dinner, they couldn't spit out and say, you're going to save X. They couldn't do that.
They didn't give you a ballpark?
They won't, until it's run by their underwriting team. So, but, I mean, refunding is just like you would if you're with your mortgage at home. I mean, if the rates go down and you could save X amount of dollars and it makes sense, you do it. Same thing with refunding. If it doesn't make sense, we don't have to do it. But even if we didn't do the refunding, we still have the flexibility in our debt service model, which is good. This is just kind of icing on the cake.
Just to make sure I'm clear, when you say refunding, do you mean refinancing?
Somewhat.
Is it like the
Similar.
Similar.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times, though, when you refinance your mortgage, and you get another 30-year mortgage. This
Yeah.
is not necessarily the case. Yeah.
Probably don't want to do that.
No.
Drop your turn.
No. So any questions on the finance? Good. Trish is glaring at me with her arms crossed that I can't be good. Okay, let's go to your sheets for the roads.
Yep.
Okay, now again, Brian broke these up. As you know, these are Brian's recommendations. I spoke again to Brian today. We spent about an hour together, just kind of reviewing some things. Again, you know, he sees a lot of different philosophies when it comes to the roads. Again, as he put it, we're so far behind as a community, regardless of where we start. It's going to be a benefit to the community. It's just a matter of philosophically where we want to go. One of the things that we are going to do, built into our budget, we had $50,000 in proactive funds to be used for whether it be crack sealing or pothole repair and so on and so forth. Brian had initially given us a number in the book, or in what you have, of about $290,000. He's reworked these numbers off the state bid list, reaching out to a couple different contractors. He has that number now down to $44,640.87. So that's going to take place. Roads we're going to crack seal are going to be basically all B and C roads: Skokrat, Pearl, Silvermine, Chatfield, Mountain, Eleanor, Bunting, Buckingham, Peach, Stanley, Osprey, Meadowwoods, High Ridge, Kathy, and Southwest Road.
So Kurt, just so I'm clear, and I heard that number right, it's about $250,000 less
Correct.
than was estimated, so he did a good job in
No,
whittling that down
That was
and
my
getting a
question
tighter
as well.
estimate, right?
Yeah,
Where'd the discrepancy come from,
Yeah,
did you say?
which is good.
just the factors that he used to calculate it, that's all.
That's good news.
Guess we shouldn't
Yeah.
complain about that, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, not at all. He's also recommending on top of that, what he calls partial full-depth road repair. Certain roads, and it's a lot of the longer roads as an example, where the entire road may not be fully destroyed, but there are sections on the road that need heavy repair. Brian's recommending about $367,000 in spot repairs on Pearl Street, Mountain, Skokrat, Bunting, Silvermine, and Laurel Lane. These range in lengths from 135 feet to 260 to 1,125. The reason why I bring this up, I think the biggest part of our conversation tonight is going to be philosophical. Should we be looking at the major roads that people travel on, or should we be looking at the neighborhoods, or a combination of both? In the recommendations that Brian has for this, as I said, repair work, which will be paid in cash, will take place in August and September. He's listing Pearl, Mountain, Skokrat, Bunting, Silvermine, and Laurel. So other than Laurel, we're hitting some of the larger, more well-traveled roads. That may change some people's opinions when it comes to how you want to do that.
What about Holbrook?
Holbrook is completely separate. It's being done through a LOTSIP grant through the state of Connecticut.
Good to see you.
Yep. That's, Holbrook itself is a little over $2 million.
You said August or September, right?
Mhm.
Is that gonna interfere with like, because we mentioned the neighborhood roads. Is that gonna
Mhm.
interfere with buses and picking up the kids and the bus stops?
Shouldn't, because they're smaller sections. Pearl Street, one of the sections is 135 feet, another it's 260 feet, so it shouldn't have. I mean, it's curb to curb that they're doing these things. The biggest one is Mountain Road, which is from Route 67 up to the curve that goes to the left, and come to find out, which I never knew, the curve is in Oxford.
Yeah, that's Oxford.
Didn't know that until this afternoon, so we'll be sending George a bill for that little section of the road. So, but that's the biggest repair. So that section, essentially from the curve down to 67, will cost $140,000. It's 1,125 feet. Okay? So that's that. But again, that's not for this board to really talk about right now. What we're going to talk about are figure 1, how we want to break up, or what we want to do for 2017, 2018, and 2019.
Can I kick it off?
You may fire away. Well, hold on before you start. The one thing that we can say is we don't necessarily have to put dates on any of these, so we can leave it kind of up to the discretion of this board to pick and choose within the bonding. If we put specific dates on them, like we did ABC last time, we need to go through all the As, then all the Bs, before we can get to all the Cs. So if we set it up 2017, 2018, 2019, we have to go through all of 2017, all of 2018, and then all of 2019. We can't bounce around. So, Al, go ahead.
All right, just to start the conversation, I just have a comment, an inconsistency that requires some clarification and a specific question. So
Mhm.
I guess my comment first is, I was looking through on page 1, it talks about, in the second full paragraph under 1.0 project description, talks about the town of Seymour currently maintains over 280 town roads. I added up, page 1.
Okay. Yep.
I added up the number of roads that's given in 3.0, conclusion and recommendations in the chart, and I come up with 306. So I was just curious if that, 306 exactly, and I just wanted to confirm that that's how many roads we have in town, just so we're talking in the same number here, because the report just says over 280.
I have the answer.
Nicole wants to answer.
Go ahead.
Melissa, I actually spoke to Brian Asteriak, and he said because he took certain roads, like Mountain Road, and did sections of it, so that he considered that a road.
Okay.
Right.
So that's why it was more than, Mountain Road obviously is one road, but in breakdown, like in 2017, see, it says Mountain Road, Botsford to Deerfield, and Glen Circle to Canfield. He's considering those individuals.
Okay.
Oh.
So that's why it adds to the total number.
So is 306 in the ballpark?
Yes.
Of what we have?
Mhm.
Because I'd like to know that,
Well,
if asked by somebody in town.
Right, well,
I'd
no,
like
the
to have an answer.
280, that's how many roads roughly we have.
Okay.
But the what was it, 306?
I just added them up.
Because
He
Yeah.
had three, he wrote 305
Right,
individual
because,
report
because
cards
you
right
can
on top
see,
there.
Yeah,
you can see
305,
under
306.
2017, priority number 11 is Mountain Road, 12 is Mountain Road, 13 is Mountain Road, so he counted those as individual roads.
Okay.
So that's why it ended up being a bigger number.
All right.
Roy will tell you, there are paper roads and things like that that he loves to spend time on, so, yeah.
And the only, I found an inconsistency in 3.0, under the pavement grades of F. He lists 5, but I only see 4 that are listed in the charts, 2017, 2018, 2019. In the specific charts, I only count 4 F grades, 2 in 2018, one is Curry Hill Road, the other one's Wood Street, and then in 2019 plus, it's Ryder Avenue and Bellevue Terrace, so I only count 4. So I wanted to get that answered for the board, just so we know whether it's 4 or 5.
It's
with grades of F.
He's just not recommending one of the F roads be done in the next 3 years.
All right, so it's just not in the charts. Okay, so that's good. And so I guess the first question I have to kick us off, and more specifically, the specific question is, why aren't any of the 4 F-graded roads in the 2018, 2019 plus schedule in the 2017 schedule? Because I would think that you'd want to get those F roads done immediately. It's only 3,800 square feet of road, which is under a mile, per his data. Why wouldn't you want to get those done in 2017 and just get them fixed if they're that horrific?
Brian, in his estimation, he was trying to get the greatest amount of impact possible in the beginning. Again, we're limited in that first year. The parameters that were given to Brian were about 3.5 million. So he was trying to get essentially the biggest bang for the buck. Some of those roads, the F roads, are smaller roads. They may only have 1 or 2 houses on them, may not be heavily traveled. And this is where it comes down to the philosophy of, do we want to do neighborhoods or do we want to do roads that are going to impact the most residents? So the mountain roads, the Bungay roads, the Skokarats, the colony roads, the streets like that. This is what Brian thought would be the best way to go. So it's not that he doesn't think that the F roads should be done. It's just that he was trying to prioritize and come up with a list that worked within the parameters of the money that was given.
Yeah, because that just jumped out to me, that none of the F roads were in 2017. I can't speak for the other board members, but that jumped out that we weren't taking care of those immediately. But now that you've explained what his philosophy was, how he calculated that, maybe getting more bang for your buck and doing a cost-benefit use, I could see you could go either way.
I mean, the only, if Wood and Ryder are obviously smaller streets. The one that kind of jumped off to me was Bellevue,
Yeah.
way into
Yeah.
2019. That was the one F that jumped off to me.
But
I think the Bellevue one should be,
There's a decent amount of houses on that road.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, initially I totally agreed with Al. I think I'd probably still feel this way, that I think we should move all the Fs up to the first year, or as early as possible, because, I mean, if they're the worst roads, I think that's an easy place to start, especially if they're not that long, cumulatively. I think we bang those out first. And it's also, it's still, regardless of how short they are, there's still people that live on those roads and still travel on them every day. Those people shouldn't be subjected to much worse conditions than others. I know it's a tough balancing act, but I think the Fs need to go right away, especially since it's a manageable number.
Where I was going with it too is the other thing, just to add one more quick comment to it. You look at, just wear and tear on vehicles of people that travel those roads all the time. I mean, there's not a lot of people. Plow blades getting damaged if we have,
Yeah.
projectiles coming out from underneath the road like we do with some rocks with the upheave, like at Gary Park we've had, and Laurel I know has that too. It's just a mess. And Chuck does like that too. But I was looking to try to prevent that kind of damage to, citizens' cars, our town facilities, our public works trucks, all that. So that's what I was getting at too, but.
Other thing to keep in mind too, some of these F roads that are smaller are ones that can be potentially addressed in cash with our proactive account. But we can never address a mountain road, we can never address a Bungay Road or Colony, roads like that with our proactive money, we just don't have enough in those accounts yet. Now, maybe in 4 or 5 years, when we've built those accounts up, when we have 6, 7, 800,000 in the account each year, then we can start doing that. But again, it comes to the philosophy of the way we want to attack these roads. And if we put too many smaller roads in these bond issues and leave bigger roads, we're not going to be able to, we're going to have to skip years where we won't be able to do any road work. I don't think any of us want to do that. I think we want to make sure that each year we're being as impactful as we can with the money that's provided to us. You know, and you're both, I agree with both of you, what you're saying 100%. You know, this is a giant jigsaw puzzle, how we're going to fit all this in. If, you know, if I had hit Powerball last week for $450 million, I would have gifted the town $35 million, we would have taken care of every road, and it would have been an issue. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case, and we will never, Len's laughing at me. If I won Powerball, you guys would never see me again, just for the record. But, you know, we have to determine how we want to do this, and I don't think, and, you know, Brian and I kind of went back and forth today. Even in his opinion, regardless of what we decide, he's going to be okay with it, because whatever we do is going to benefit the community. It's just a matter of how we deem it to be the best way. So, I mean, if that's what this board wants to do, we want to move all the Fs up first, then we can move all the Fs up first. I certainly wouldn't be against that. But again, I would still make that argument that some of these lower cost roads might be things that we want to save for the proactive money, perhaps next summer in the fiscal year 18 budget, when we'll have probably about $250,000 in that account.
Are any of these F-grade roads in imminent danger of failing? And then, you know, I look at F-grade as, yeah, it's failing, or it's the worst road in town, but the first thing that comes to mind is there are different degrees of F.
Right,
Maiden Lane last year in particular comes to mind, that could have fallen down the hill.
right.
That's a danger, whereas, you know, if there's something that's just horrible and really needs to be paved, that's another issue, but it's
I
not
mean,
a danger.
They define F as failing/critical.
Right.
So I'm assuming it's
Well,
pretty disastrous.
Is-
I hear what you're
Is
saying.
it
There could
worth
be different
assuming that, or
levels,
is it?
Well, I mean, if you
think
look
it
at
is
this
the
list,
look at
I
it.
think we've all probably been on Bellevue Terrace. It's a drivable road. When you come down that hill going towards South Main Street, it's a little,
Yeah.
you know, a little treacherous.
Yeah.
You know, Curry Hill, same thing. If you've been, I believe there's 3 houses up on Curry Hill. It's steep. It's tough to plow, but Curry Hill would be difficult to plow even if the road was brand new. We did some work at the bottom of Curry Hill. It was a Curry and Nor last year. I know some of the residents up on Curry Hill. They're, you know,
I have a question.
they're there. You know, I mean, it's not that they're worried that their street is going to fall down into Nor Avenue and down onto New Street, but it's drivable. And, you know, some people say they like their road a little beaten up, as crazy as this sounds, because people drive slower. And what we've seen on all these roads that we've redone is, you know, if you, on West Street, we had to put the stop sign in on West Street because West
Oh.
Street turned into a racetrack.
Yeah.
Everybody would cut through
Yeah.
because there's no bumps. So I would argue some potholes are a good thing.
So with these F-rated roads,
People.
Don't write that.
I don't know how
Don't write
popular
that.
that's going to be.
That'll be the lead article.
or Godspeed.
Yeah.
Um,
That's right, they're Godspeed bumps. Yeah.
Stop. With these F-rated roads, Bellevue Terrace obviously is the longest one.
Mhm.
Is the other 3 F-rated roads, we could do those in our proactive road program in the spring? Are they small enough and cost-effective to do those? So I'm saying to move Bellevue Terrace into the 2017 or 2018 slot
Mhm.
and put the other 3 into our proactive road program for the spring.
We would
Is
not,
that feasible?
we would not, it would be very close if we can do the other 3 in one shot with proactive money in 1 year.
Or do 2 out of the 3
Yes, we can definitely
and
do
then
2 out
move
of
the
3.
3rd into the following?
If you look at moving Bellevue up into the first, you got to also consider which roads you're dropping.
Right.
Basically, you would either drop a section of Mountain Road or West Church Street, pretty much. That's also something to think about. Again, I still think I'm in favor of that, but it's a lot to go through.
Yeah. So we're not going home until we've made a decision, so.
Well, let's
Okay,
hear what other
we're-
folks have to say.
The only one that's happy to hear that is Brian Leclerc.
Brian told me he's ready to go to midnight.
Brian's on board for a long night tonight,
Right,
so.
but don't we also want to ask the engineer
Ask him.
what he feels would be a road to move? If we took Bellevue and put it in 2017?
Well, I think his recommendation is not to move anything, because this is what he.
This is the way he would do
Right,
it.
but with us making this suggestion to him, taking it and say, okay, now what do you think?
He would, because talking to him today, he would say it's philosophical. Would you want to match a longer road at that point? Or would you just want to say, we're not going to do, and I'm not advocating this in any way, but we're not going to do Roberts, Spruce, French, and Nichols as an example. So we're going to pull an entire neighborhood out.
I think my approach on this generally is a little bit different, I guess. Philosophically, I look at it and say, well, most residents travel some of these bigger roads regularly. You're taking your kids up to, the high school, or you're taking kids downtown, or whatever you're doing. Most residents use those roads regularly. So those residents are incurring damage in their vehicles. They're having issues. I just think that it makes more sense. It's a better approach is to take care of those roads that are in dire need of repair. Many of these roads are Ds on the with the grading. Take care of those roads first. Al brought up a good point. Our public works department has to go out and plow these roads regularly. These are the first roads that have to be plowed because they're the most heavily trafficked, because you have the access to the schools and whatnot take priority.
Mhm.
And the more potholes, the more issues that come up with these roads, the more damage it does to our plows, to our trucks, and generally to the neighborhood itself, because a pothole gets torn up and gets bigger, and chunks fly into people's yards, and all hell breaks loose. But the way I look at it, I think it's a better approach to try to take care of some of the more heavily trafficked streets first. And I understand that F roads obviously need to be taken care of. If we can do it in the proactive account, I think that's a great approach right there as well. But the reason why I asked, if are any of these F grade roads worse than others, is primarily, a road could be graded as an F but not be a public safety hazard,
Mhm.
or a major public safety hazard. Whereas if you have a D grade road, I'm just looking at, some of them here, Mountain Road in particular, some stretches are rated as a D. If you have people traveling that road regularly, it's a higher speed they're traveling at, generally speaking, than they are on many of these side roads. I think what's the speed limit on Mountain? Is it 25? Most people do 50,
30, yeah.
and most people do 40 or 50, which is pretty, realistic. I think that takes precedence over, a very small F-grade road, unless it's gonna fall down a hill or,
Well, I
into
mean,
the earth.
with that being said, if you go to 2019, the last road for 2019 is Old Ansonia Road, which is graded as a C, which if you've driven Old Ansonia Road, it's got some bad sections.
Yes, it does.
But to redo that road, you're talking almost 900,000 from start to finish. I mean, it's 6,600 feet long, so that's kind of the stuff you have to take into account. What you're saying, there's some of these D roads that are not a danger yet, but could they become one? They could. A lot of it, too, has to depend on the change in the season. If we get another very bad, cold winter, that's going to pop even more of these roads, so.
Right, and that's why Bellevue's on there and it's an F, that's kind of bad as it is. If you're saying that we're gonna have if we have another bad winter, that F road is just gonna get worse and worse and worse until it gets repaired.
Mhm.
I really think that we need to look,
I wouldn't be against moving Bellevue up into 2017.
I think that's a happy
I
medium
definitely
kind of
agree with
resolution.
that.
And get at least the biggest F road done.
Now, one of the other things that we're talking about with Brian is if we follow this plan that I read off earlier on, there's a chance that we'll have a small amount of money left, around 200,000, that we could potentially do DeForest First and Columbus Street, so we can redo the entire downtown. While those are Cs, Brian, and I don't disagree with him, is of the belief that our downtown should be redone. with the money we're investing in sidewalks and curb cuts and things like that, that we should have these streets being redone.
Honestly, if we're gonna
So-
redo those roads, then we're gonna be able to put in and do everything and make it ADA compliant downtown.
Well, the Main Street Investment Fund grant is going to add several curb cuts. I mean, if you walk around now, you can see everything's called before you dig.
Yep.
It's all marked, you can see where they're going to be added. We're actually working with the state, we're going to try to get a curb cut over for Broad Street Park as well, coming across from the senior center. While we have, that's where you can, we couldn't get the crosswalk until we had the curb cut. The state of Connecticut had the curb cut set for 2022. So we reached out to the state, we had some conversations with Connecticut DOT. They will gladly put the crosswalk in for us if we pay for the curb cut. So what we're gonna try to do is leverage the builder while, or excuse me, the construction company while they're here doing the other curb cuts, to have them come over and do that curb cut as well.
I have a
So-
question. The road that Mr. McGanny is building his building on, that's Columbus,
That's Columbus.
shouldn't we wait to do something to that road until he's all finished?
Correct. There was a lawsuit that he filed against the WPCA that he lost. He's going to have to change some of the sanitary sewers, which is going to require him to have to rip up half the street. Now would be a good time to do that, Columbus Street, when he's doing that repair, because we can probably get him to pay for half the street. He's got to pay for it anyway. We can split that cost. Just like, once we decide on these roads, at that point, Brian will reach out to all the utilities and say, this is our plan for the next 3 years. Where are you guys planning on doing work? And we may be able to get some of the costs reimbursed by the utility companies. So along those lines, Karen, yes,
Okay,
we would do that in conjunction with them.
thanks.
Yep. So do we want to move do we want to take all of the Cs out of 2017 and put as many Ds in as possible?
Yes.
I agree with
I
that.
agree.
Well, you have a lot of Cs that are part of the downtown.
Well, like I said,
Area.
the first Columbus and DeForest may not be there as of the fall, anyway. So if we're able to do those now in cash, we may just do those.
Okay, so the question is, could we do the other 3 sections of Mountain Road as easily if we don't do the C section that's in here? The Glen Circle to Canfield.
Well, if you took the Forest, First, and Columbus out, that's about 160,000 for those 3 roads.
No, that's not, I was.
No, but if
Okay.
we pull that out, and then we pull out Mountain, or the Glen Circle to Canfield,
Mhm.
that's 270. So you're at roughly 430,000.
Okay.
So if you were to put Bellevue back in, that's at 300, you have roughly 130 left. Again, that's 130 left at 3.5 million. If we add another million to that, you have 1.1 million of additional Ds you could potentially move up. So you can keep maybe, the Glen Circle to Canfield in at 270.
Just to kind of bang a lot of Mountain Road out at once.
You can move the next 2 Botsfords up at about 600,000.
Well, I've argued before, and I'll argue again, that I think Emma Street should take priority, because it's pretty disastrous. I'm surprised it didn't get an F, to be honest. Not that I'm questioning their work, but that road is a nightmare.
Well, do you want to rate Ds on Brian's list of 18 and 19 that have higher priority than others?
I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say, because I don't know I don't have an intimate knowledge of every road in town.
Mhm.
I can just speak for the ones that jump out at me, and Emma Street is definitely one that jumps out at me.
Emma Street, that's that, that's one over by.
Sylvana's or
Yeah,
Sylvana's,
Street,
yeah.
it's There's something weird
particularly,
about that street.
It's
It's
incredible, it's
wide.
very wide.
very wide.
but particularly the side, the edges of the road are horrendous. They're all just falling apart, falling into people's yards. It's
So if we make the road normal size,
Well, see, and that's something we'd have to talk to Brian about. When they redo these roads, they may redo them the correct width.
Mhm.
So what you may see is people now picking up an extra 10 feet. I don't know what the actual amount is.
No, it is wide, but
So, because I don't know if this is the actual curb to curb of those roads, or if this is 2,500 feet of a normal width road, which is 30 feet? I think 30 feet,
Yeah.
so. Wait, I can get that, I can get that answer for you.
yeah.
I don't, and I don't think you'll get an argument from anyone on any of the D roads.
Well,
I
you
think
can't
we'd
say
all
any of
agree
them.
they're all-
You can't say any of them are in good shape. I mean,
No, they're all bad, it's just a
Yeah.
matter of how do we fit them all
Yeah.
in to this. So if we're down in 2018 and 2019, would we rate, well, let's look at 2018, let's start there. Of the Ds, what would we rate the highest or most important to be done? Would it be Botsford Road, which is from Great Hill down to Mountain Road in Davis, that four-way stop,
Yeah.
which is pretty bad?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Would we rate Cherry Street? Or Birch? Emma?
Remember, we know is really.
Gloria?
I mean, I go just based on how often it's used and everything. I'd put Botsford just ahead of Emma, but Emma right behind it. I think Emma's in worse shape, but I think Botsford is probably more of a priority.
Everybody agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Because
disagree
of
with
the
that.
buses.
Okay.
Yeah, Botsford it has to take some priority. That's
Right, and also, don't forget
main
too, there's the drainage improvements. You know, some of the roads need that, some of them don't. So
Correct.
that adds more work. And also, I think some of these, even the roads that are in the F category, they're in an F category for a reason, but I think that what makes them, some of the factors that make them F are that there's a lot of, like the ceiling and the pothole killer.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of potholes in that,
Right.
and they're still travelable, and they're not, obviously, they're not good roads by any means, but it's just because they've been repaired so many times.
Correct.
Those are the big issues too.
I mean, if you look at the Fs, they're all basically across the board get a 1 for almost every category that they rated. So
Oh,
they're
yeah.
all bad
Ones
all
across the
around.
board.
I mean, to get an F in their scale seems like it's
It's very
pretty
consistent.
disastrous. Yeah.
Grading, yeah.
All right, so are there any, now let's go to 2019. Are there any Ds in 2019? So you have Seymour Ave, you have Short Street, Cedar Street, Fox Drive, Bungay Court, High Street, Olson Drive, Woodside Ave, Bissell Place, Castle Street, Highland Ave, Hillside Ave, Coulas Terrace. The one that I would argue that should move up would be Coulas Terrace, simply because that's the only road off of Rimmon that wasn't done. So that would completely wipe out both sides of Rimmon Road. So all the roads off of it, and they're connected, so all those neighborhoods will be completely done. So I would argue we should probably move Coulas Terrace up for that reason alone.
That seems fair.
I don't have an issue with that.
And that's one seems like we could probably work in a lot easier than some of these others.
Now, I can't speak for when Rimmon Road's actually gonna be done, but the state of Connecticut will eventually get around to it. You know, we will go through 2 bond issues, $11 million, close to 70 roads, faster than they will do Rimmon Street. So, but that's just the process, so. All right, so any of that 2019 that you would, other than Bellevue Terrace, because we've all agreed to move Bellevue Terrace up to 2017, is that? Okay.
Agreed.
And Coulas Terrace. And then what I'll do is I will kind of play with these, make them all fit with the numbers, email it out, and then I'll simply ask each of you, if Brian has no problem with this, just to respond to me that you're okay with it. And then we can get those to bond council so they can get the resolutions all set. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. just because I just don't want to do all the math tonight. We'll be here too long. So assuming we get all of these Ds in, at that point, do you want to then move to Cs and do it that way? Or do you want to rank some Cs as well once we get through the Ds? Did you want to do, what do you want to do? Because I think we're going to keep the Fs, if I'm understanding everyone correctly. We'll list all of those in 2019, and we'll do those with the proactive funds.
Yes,
We're all in agreement with that?
with the exception of Bellevue Terrace, sir.
Do we?
Right, Bellevue, yeah,
Bellevue.
Bellevue's out.
Do we have a chance, when do we have a chance to revisit this order?
We really don't unless we want to call a special meeting.
Okay.
No,
No, I mean not immediately. When is the next time that we're gonna look at prioritizing roads? Is it not till after 2019?
Because it says
once the
2019.
once the bond money runs out, then we could reprioritize.
And when will that be?
That will be the
approximately?
end of 2017?
That would theoretically by the end of 2017.
Okay, so I think if we, come up with what we want in 2017, the Cs, I don't know if we need to worry about prioritizing them right now because we don't know what they're gonna look like at the end of 2017.
Yes, but the concern I have is, let's say, Brian thinks that some of these, his estimates are very conservative. So while he has 3.238 million, once it's all said and done, this might only be 2.9 million. So at that point, we need to have
Okay.
some rankings in 2018 so we can move on to
To be
those
ready.
next roads. And again, if we're talking 4.5 million, excuse me, as opposed to 3.5 million, we have some more wiggle room there. So we at least want to stack 2018 with a good chunk of roads that we can get to.
Yeah.
With the proactive funds, we can just pick and choose whatever we want to do.
Then my philosophy with this is they've done the work to prioritize
Yeah, we
what
already prioritized.
what roads are.
Yeah.
I think Cs that are the most traveled should go right to the top, if they are. In terms of Cs.
2018.
Yeah, because I think with Ds and Fs we can argue, this road is so bad that it supersedes this road that is a little more traveled. But I think with Cs, they're not going to be, undrivable. Hopefully within the next year. So I think
Mhm.
we move the ones that are most traveled to the top if we can.
Okay, and if you look at the Cs that we see, you have Bungay Road from Botsford to West Church. You have Botsford Road from Mountain to Brookfield. Bungay Road, Skokerat, West Street, which is the kind of the down part there, that wasn't done. Bunting, that's the last part of Bunting that we just didn't have enough money for, and then Chuck the Road.
Yeah, so they're all pretty well traveled.
Yeah, that's the thing, so it might be,
You're right.
yeah. But I mean, if we list them out, and Brian, I don't know if you want to answer this question, but we don't necessarily have to go in order. If we have them listed in 2018, can we pick Road 3 over Road 1?
Yeah, if we like created tiers, and you had to just stay within the tier, I guess.
As long, I would, and I would assume as long as we had all of 2017 roads done, we can then pick in 2018, so I can rank it that way. That's not a problem.
All right.
So I'll,
Makes sense.
now, if you want, I could put this together, and we can do it the way we talked about it, or we can come back together on August 16th and finalize it, but then we're gonna have to have a special meeting. Because we have to approve it before the Board of Finance approves it.
I'd like to avoid a special meeting
Yeah, me too.
and get this done and moved on.
So if I put it together, email it out to everybody, you can give me a yay or a nay?
Yes, but, and
You're okay
put a
with that?
deadline by when we need to get it to you by, get it back by.
Oh, Rory and I will put this together tomorrow. We'll probably have it to you by tomorrow afternoon or
Okay.
Thursday at the latest.
Okay.
And then, I would like it back as quickly as possible maybe by the weekend if you can.
Sure. I don't think we should delay it. I
It
think we
should-
need to
it-
get these roads fixed.
Yeah, and it shouldn't take us too long to.
Oh,
We've already discussed it.
A lot of people have done a lot of legwork
Yeah.
already.
right. Well, that's,
Do it individually.
That's
well,
what I was
we're
ask
gonna,
you.
this is to build the resolution, and then we're gonna approve the resolution on the 16th. So that's okay then?
Yeah, if we talk,
That's what I'm
if
saying,
we talk
just-
individually, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So we can't send a group email and say,
That's
vote
why,
on
just
this.
respond to
Yeah,
me.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Long try off.
Just respond to me.
Yeah.
Right, which isn't a quorum and is not having a discussion.
Right. Mhm.
Right, right. Okay. All right, so we'll have this to you by Thursday at the latest, and if everybody can get back to me individually, one at a time. That good?
Yes,
Everything we do is legal, Ed.
it's all by the book.
That's what I have. Okay. Oh, hold on, we're not gonna go. Not yet. Hold on. Hold on.
You wanna put the air conditioning on?
It was a meat locker before, now it's hot?
We're not 8 degrees.
All right, item number, actually, I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding purchase of a Department of Public Works garage hydraulic lift.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Stefan. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding purchase of a Department of Public Works garage hydraulic lift. You each received memos when you came in from, Rory handed those to you?
Yep.
This is from the Board of Selectmen, from Anthony Caserta, Director of Operations. It's dated today. It says the Department of Public Works is requesting a waiver of bidding for repairs to the hydraulic truck lift at the town garage. Public Works contacted several vendors who work on this type of equipment, and only Ray Jurgen Company responded by inspecting and appraising the necessary repairs. Ray Jurgen Company has previously rebuilt the lift and is the vendor that we currently use for routine maintenance and repairs. At this point, the condition of the lift compromises the safety of our employees. The emergent nature of the repair and lack of response by other qualified vendors is, in our opinion, sufficient to cause to request a bid waiver per section 2-268E of the town charter, as well as authorization to immediately contract Ray Jurgen Company to make these urgently needed repairs. The town has $40,000 appropriated for this purpose. Sincerely, Anthony Caserta. All right, so what they're asking is that we waive the bid process per section 2-268 of the charter because of the emergency situation. Right?
That's correct. You have that authority under 268E of the charter, which exempts certain items from bidding. That includes when you have an immediate need, an unforeseen combination of circumstances that would call for immediate action by the town. So I think that you should probably have to adopt in writing what you should
Okay.
as selectmen. If you do have that emergency situation, an unforeseen situation, a combination of circumstances, then you can handle it.
Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts for Brian around this? And we identified this as something that was in need of repair. Because of the price, we've been reaching out to multiple vendors to try to get them to come in and take a look at it, give us a quote. We've gotten one company that's come in. It's to the point now where we can't wait any longer. We need to get the work done, particularly with the winter season approaching. I mean, it's only August, but we are 100 days away from November, as we all know, and the potential for snow. So we need to have all of our equipment up to date and ready to go.
I think the key phrase in this memo is compromises the safety of our employees.
Right.
So this,
Yes.
we gotta
Okay,
do this.
So with that, I will entertain a motion to accept the memo that was presented by Director of Operations Anthony Caserta, and to allow the town to waive the bid per section 2-268E of the town charter, to allow Ray Jurgen Company to handle the urgently needed repairs for the Public Works hydraulic lift.
So moved.
That sound good, Brian? Okay. Motion by Karen, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is executive session, item number 11. So I'd like to take a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy and negotiations with respect to a pending claim regarding the Berry Blight lien. Persons in attendance shall be the members of the Board of Selectmen, Town Attorney Brian Leclerc, and Rory Burke, Assistant to the First Selectman.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. We'll go into executive session at 8:30 PM.